Okay, this is an easy one. Uh, Somebody asked me on the internet. So I typed in his questions. Are there penalties for putting loyalty to a politician over the Constitution? And you know me, when it comes to the Constitution, I'm a constitutionalist. Anyways, a public official, a government employee who puts loyalty to a political figure over the U.S. Constitution may face a range of serious penalties from removal from office to criminal charges like treason. The specific consequences depend on the severity of the action, the level of office, and whether the person is a federal, state, or military official. For elected and high-level officials, the penalties for president, vice president, federal judges, or other high-level civil officers are primarily constitutional and political. Impeachment and removal. See, the penalties for the president, vice president, federal judges, and other high-level officers are primarily constitutional and political. Impeachment and removal from office. A federal official can be impeached by the House of Representatives, and convicted by the Senate for treason, bribery, and other high crimes. Remember, political bribery is not legal bribery. It's violations of the basic obligations of public service. I already did a video on that if you want to go through them. There's a whole bunch of stuff that our public servants aren't doing, and I'm telling you what they're supposed to be doing. An official is abuse of or violation of the public trust. I went over that with you. Look up the public trust doctrine. I just went over with you that they are legally mandated to do what's in the public interest. Okay, and they have to. It's part of the oath of office. It's the law. Disqualifying from holding future office of a federal official is convicted by the Senate during an impeachment trial. They can also be barred from holding any future federal office. 14th Amendment disqualification. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment prevents any federal or state official who are taking an oath to support the Constitution shall engage in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid and comfort to enemies, therefore from holding office again. Criminal prosecution. Federal officials are not immune to criminal law. After being moved from office through impeachment, an official can still be prosecuted in a regular court of law for any associated criminal offenses. For federal employees, federal civil servants take a specific oath to support and defend the Constitution. Criminal charges. A federal employee who advocates to overthrow the U.S. government can be criminally prosecuted and removed from the position. Specific statutes like 18 U.S.C. 1918 lay out penalties, which can include fines, imprisonment for up to 1 year and 1 day, and removal. Perjury. An official who violates their oath by making a false statement can be charged with perjury, a federal crime punishable by fines and up to 5 years in prison. Termination of employment. Agencies can impose administrative penalties, including termination for any action that violates the constitutional oath. For military personnel, military officers and enlisted personnel swear an oath to support the Constitution, not a political figure, not a specific political figure. Violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, acts that compromise a service member's constitutional oath, could lead to a court-martial under USMJ, depending on the severity. A conviction can lead to a range of severe consequences. Punitive damages. Bad conduct or dishonorable. Loss of pay and rank. Confinement. Civilian prosecution. Like any other citizen, military personnel can also be prosecuted in a civilian court or federal court or or state crimes. For state and local officials, the penalties for violating the constitutional vary based on state laws. Criminal charges, some states like Georgia explicitly define a violation of office as a felony punishable by imprisonment. They should use that. They should really use that in Georgia. Recall elections. In many states, citizens can vote to recall and remove an official before their term ends. Did you know that? State level impeachment. Many states have their own impeachment procedures for removing officials who violate the public interest. That's why I told you about, every public official, every public servant is required to do legally required to do what's in the public interest. These tax codes, not in the public interest. All these issues we're having medically, not in the public interest. All the laws they made for all these medical issues, that's in the interest of the bar. And what's interest of corporacy, that's always in the interest of the bar. Look up corporacy. I did a video on that. That's a country where its government and laws and everything are made to serve corporate rule. All right. And when haven't we lived under that, right? Corporate rule. And thus, that's under the color of law. You think a lot of their stuff they're doing is legal, but it's not legal. You just think it's legal because they're doing it, but they're actually breaking a bunch of laws that I'm telling you about in a whole bunch of different videos. There's, I think, over 200 on YouTube. Okay, violating the Constitution with impunity, aside from public misappropriation, there is no penalty for violating the Constitution generally, or for the First Amendment in particular. Our loyalty oaths unconstitutional. The court has upheld requirements for loyalty pledges, provided that they do not infringe on constitutional rights, but has struck down more punitive. State overthrow and hence are not criminals within applicable. The loyalty oath requirement to obtain tax exemption is unconstitutional. People, you can learn a lot, Well, my dad was teaching me, talked to me about, filing taxes and how he was saying they were necessary for infrastructure. And then we talked about the public trust doctrine, and and if you go through the public trust doctrine, there's a lot that you'll have to look through. But basically, taxes taxes are meant for infrastructure. It's in the public trust doctrine. It's when you look up the public interest, there's a lot of stuff I talk about in my videos. Okay, so anybody that puts their oath before a political figure or a political party, before their oath to the United States Constitution, even suggesting usurping the Constitution is illegal. But either way, a public official or government employee who puts loyalty to a political figure over the U.S. Constitution may face a range of serious penalties, from removal from office to criminal charges like treason. So anytime you hear somebody say, the president's agenda, remember, the president's agenda, he took an oath, and that oath requires her, not just the president, the vice president, everybody in Congress, governors, mayors, every lawyer out there, judges, to do what's in the public interest. It's a legal requirement. and there's penalties for that. I did a video on that talking to you about it. Okay, people, I thought this was an easy one, kind of, but apparently it's not because. But then again, I'm I don't have that many years on the computer. I'm kind of old. Tried to get people to teach me how to use one. Nobody would. I had to figure it out myself. Putting it together was no problem, but figuring in, getting on the internet, exploring the internet, what was on the internet, the stuff people were telling me, mostly social media sites, and you want to know this, you want to know that, ask the internet. And so a couple times I asked questions if anybody knows where I can find this or that. So I just started putting my questions to the search engine, the search bar. And there's every book I ever read. And there's a whole lot of stuff I haven't read that I want to get to. So the sooner we get this thing going, all of you start speaking up, for your birthrights, all those promises in the Constitution. Those are your birthrights as a U.S. citizen. That's your trust fund. That's your trust fund, babies. That's your trust fund. Stop them. Use the law. And don't forget, it's the DOJ, the FBI, and all these other, because anybody putting their oath to a political figure, putting their loyalty to a political figure, a political party before the Constitution, and the Constitution requires them to do what's in the public interest. It's even in the preamble of the Rules of Professional Conduct. All lawyers are, sorry, used to what my dad always calls them, liars. All lawyers are required to do what's in the public interest, not in self-interest, not in parochial interests, not in the interest of the bar. So many stories I read out there, so many of you, having so many problems. But we got to do this together, as many of us as possible. I hope you're talking to your friends, your kids, mom, dad, sister, brother, cousins, nieces, nephews. Whoever. School, work. Call your politicians. Hey, I just looked this up, and why isn't this happening? People, it doesn't matter what state you're in. It doesn't. It doesn't matter if it's a red state or a blue state. If they aren't living up to the oath, they aren't fit for office. Remember, the oath requires them to do what's in the public interest. Watch my video on the public interest, and you'll understand. Alright, nothing but peace and love to you. Okay, may your Creator always be with you and rain many blessings. And I hope that you take the blessings that I've received and shared. I post about them. Knowledge. And I hate to keep reminding you, but your constitutional rights are not a given, they're earned. You have to fight for them, like as if your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness counts on it, and thus far it has. Okay, people, just look it up. It's there. Penalties for putting loyalty to a politician versus the Constitution. And right now, look at due process. It doesn't even exist. People are talking about eliminating that, but if you eliminate it for the immigrants, you're eliminating it for everybody, because the Constitution says that anybody on our land has the right to due process, even illegal immigrants, or immigrants, illegal immigrants, immigrants. It doesn't say except, it says including. But you let them eliminate one constitutional right, wipe out one amendment. All right, people, nothing but peace and love for you, all right? I keep telling some people, I always mention when I talk to lawyers and judges, and it gets me a whole lot of side-eye in the public interest, of course, and that's why I do this. It's in the public in the public interest, of course. See, you're hearing from me what you should be hearing from them, and they're doing what they shouldn't be doing and not doing what they should be doing. And I need your help to correct their course and put them in place. Hold them to the oath they took. Lawyers and judges took an oath, and that oath includes living up to the standards set forth in the rules and the codes, the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct. And they're not doing that. And if they're not doing that, you didn't get a fair trial. I have some people talking about they're doing all this stuff I told them, but they keep forgetting. I keep mentioning a fair trial. A fair trial requires informed consent. Before informed consent they can get informed consent, you need reasonable knowledge to make an informed decision to give informed consent. And they're fighting pro se, and the judges are holding these people to the legal knowledge of a learned, seasoned professional because of their ineffective assistance of counsel. And no matter how many times they cite these attorneys for ineffective assistance of counsel, judges don't do anything, I mean, if you go by the rules, mandatory reporting misconduct is mandatory, and failure to report is misconduct. So your lawyer is supposed to report the judge, the other lawyer, and himself. They are legally required to report themselves as well for any misconduct. And the ones that do usually do that's just a slip. So they'll report themselves. But it's impossible just to violate one rule. You violate one rule, you're going to violate 4, 5, 6 others. And when you violate the rules, you violate the codes. Because reporting misconduct is mandatory in both the rules and the codes, and nobody does that, not the judge. So the judge automatically violates the code of judicial conduct. And it's a never-ending story. It's called a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. All this stuff I'm talking to you about is about the conspiracy against rights under the color of law. You can get anybody on that. It's easy, but you got to know the laws. All right? So go to my page, Legal Reform, or my YouTube channel, or TikTok, unaccompanied adult. I'm on unaccompanied adult. I think on Threads and Instagram, and I forgot what on the X, Twitter, and I'm doing my best. All right. So I need your help to get this information out. If you can't share my videos and get other people interested in this stuff, make your own. Make your own videos. Who knows? Maybe it'll make you famous. All right. Thank you for listening. Remember, all I typed in was penalties for putting loyalty to a politician versus the Constitution. You have a good night.